Baseball is back, and at Team Toyota, savings and selection are back too. With tons of new Toyota SUVs, trucks, and hybrids to choose from, and with our lineup of over 200 certified used Toyotas, you can find the right fit for you and your budget. Plus, our service and collision centers are here to get you back in the game in no time. Visit one of our 3 locations in Princeton, Langhorne, or Glen Mills, or online at teamtoyota.net.
Hello, everybody, and welcome into the Phillies Talk podcast presented by Team Toyota. I am Spencer Kircher, joined by the one and only Sean Kane, the producer of Pre and Post Game. Hi, Sean Kane. How's it going, buddy?
It's good. It's good. Baseball has been so great the last couple of nights, but you can't win them all, I guess. But
cannot win them all.
But thanks for having me, as always.
Of course, buddy. Yeah. Of course. And we sit here on Wednesday night after the Phillies lose 2-0 to the Houston Astros on Wednesday. Obviously, they've been outscored 3-0 in the first 2 games in Houston.
Yeah.
This pod will come out on Thursday morning before the series finale. Christopher Sanchez takes them out. We'll get into that a little bit, but Thursday's also kind of a big little milestone. It's the official midpoint of the season. Mm-hmm. And this team right now, and when you and I talked on Thursday last week before the Mets series, we were saying that hopefully we were going to talk to you guys Monday. Obviously, scheduling happens and things don't happen, but it's a positive pod. It was going to be a great pod. They won 2 or 3 from the Mets. They have a 1.5 game lead over them. And then all of a sudden this Houston series comes around now, and it's the first time that they've been shut out in back-to-back games since August of 2022. They have a scoreless drought over 19 innings, which is the longest of the season. It was a 15-inning scoreless drought, I think, in August, a 16-inning scoreless drought last July. And now here we are, where this Phillies offense has been struggling.
Yeah, it's been rough, and it's the roller coaster of a baseball season, which you understand, but this Phillies team in particular really seems to be riding. They went that stretch losing 9 out of 10, and then they bounce back and they win 10 out of 12. And now, big series went over the Mets, as you alluded to. And now this Houston series just couldn't have gotten off to a worse start offensively. And the worst part is you get 2 brilliant pitching performances from right now your 2 best starters, arguably 2 of the best starters in the National League.
100%.
In Ranger Suarez and Zach Wheeler. They're both excellent. They both give up 1 run. And the offense literally just can't muster anything. And it's just frustrating. I know Harper's not in the lineup. I know, on Tuesday, they kind of trotted out a right-handed heavy lineup against Framber Valdez, with Buddy Kennedy at first, and obviously Otto Kemp in left, and Edmundo Sosa in the game. And, it was a little different of Johan Rojas. And it just, I don't know. I said it to you while we were watching the game Wednesday night. Like, they're a first-place team, and they've had the pitching's unbelievable, the starting pitching. But you watch a game like the last couple of nights, you're like, are they really good enough to win a World Series? Like, do they have enough pop? Do they have enough juice offensively? And again, Harper's out. I understand that, but just lifeless, man. Just they go down there and it's just lifeless, this offense. And 1 for 12 with runners in scoring position in these last 2 games. You mentioned the scoreless streak now dates back to Sunday. I mean, it's going to be Thursday when the podcast.
That's crazy, dude. Yeah.
I don't know, man. It's just tough. It's tough to watch them and the at-bats they're having and get real excited about the big picture. But it's baseball. It's a long season, but just a lifeless couple of games that it's kind of pretty discouraging, I guess is the word I'm looking for.
I think that's a perfect word to describe what's going on. Because, this weekend was awesome. The bank was rocking as we expected it to be. And then you go down to Atlanta and you waste 2 great outings.
Down to Houston, yeah.
Or down to Houston, sorry. Yeah. Atlanta's on the brain.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Atlanta's on the brain.
Yep.
But so you go down to Houston and you just waste these 2 fantastic outings by Zach Wheeler and Ranger Suarez. And tonight, obviously, Zach he labored a little bit. It was 47 pitches through the first 2 innings. Yeah. And then he went 11, 12, 13, and then settled in. Yeah, man, he settled in. Didn't allow a hit after the 2nd inning until, I think, the 6th. He was rolling. And Ranger was so good on Tuesday night as well. But you mentioned, obviously, Wednesday was the 18th consecutive game without Bryce Harper.
Yep.
The silver lining is now they are 10-7 without Harper. Or I guess 10-8 now.
Yeah. Yep.
They're averaging in those games 4.3 runs.
Okay.
They're averaging 4.8 runs when he is in the lineup.
Yeah, it's a half run. That's a big deal.
It's a big deal.
Yeah.
But it's also kind of a thing where, to me, you just need a bat.
Mm-hmm.
You need someone that can step in here right this second and produce a home run, like walk up to the plate and be like, all right, here comes a home run. And Schwarber is that guy.
Mm-hmm.
But right now,
nobody else has double-digit home runs.
What, like
you mentioned it's the midpoint of the season. Nobody's
crazy.
on pace for 20 home runs other than Schwarber.
It's insane.
I know Harper's hurt. He probably would have 10 home runs now, but guys like Castellanos and Trey is, you've seen a little pop.
Yeah.
Bohm, Real Muto has no pop at the moment. Like, these guys just aren't giving them big hits is the point.
We were talking a little about JT during the game. The pop is just not there with JT. Where's I'm trying to look up his slugging percentage. It
was in the threes when I looked at it.
Yeah.
That was earlier in the game.
Yeah. It stinks, man. Yeah. And you're kind of relying on Amundo Sosa, who is the only Phillies player in the lineup on Tuesday to have multiple hits. Mm-hmm. As we sit down here, Wednesday.
354 slug. Right?
354 slug. No, you're got it here. Fine.
354 slug. Yeah.
And then on Wednesday, the only players with multiple hits are Kyle Schwarber and Brandon Marsh.
Yep.
Where did the offense go? And they had 10 strikeouts today. They were obviously on Tuesday. They were 0 for 7 with runners in scoring position. Today, they were 1 for 5. They left 7 on base tonight. They left 9 on base on Tuesday. There needs to be someone that can step up. And it was funny because you and I on this last podcast, we were talking about how these complimentary players have stepped up. Alec Bohm has stepped up. Bryson Stott started to get hot. And now you go down to Houston and you lay 2 goose eggs in back-to-back games.
And you get Hunter Brown on Thursday.
Good luck.
Good luck, yeah.
Good luck.
You mentioned slug, and I just pulled up the box score from the game on Wednesday night just to answer your question. 6 of the 9 hitters in the lineup last night, a slug south of 400. The only guys with a slugging percentage over 400 last night, Turner, Schwarber, and Castellanos. Not in that order. Schwarber's the top of the list, but everybody else, Bohm included, JT, Bryson, Sosa, Kemp, and Marsh, all under 400 slugs. So just not a lot of
pop.
Slug. yeah, as Rob Thompson likes to say.
And what he said that last year was the slug will come.
Slug will come, yeah.
And as we sit here again, Thursday is the halfway point of the season. Game number 81.
Yeah,
and hopefully the slug will come. Let's talk about the one run that the Astros scored in the first inning. We mentioned Wheeler kind of labored through that first inning, struggled a little bit. Second straight start where he just labored through those first few innings.
Yeah.
But then what really kind of stinks is that Trea Turner doesn't get an error.
No. Ricky Metallica talks about all the time, like the scoring. It's obvious what's happening. They want more offense. They want batting averages to be higher. But the hits. But the ERA.
That's correct.
The pitchers are getting completely hosed.
It's gonna affect the Cy Young candidacy.
Yeah, I mean that shouldn't be an earned run tonight. That should be 6 innings, no earned runs.
Yep.
And his ERA instead of being
2.55,
2.55 should be under a 2.5 right now.
That stinks, man.
But it's but yeah, Turner's got to make that play.
Yeah,
at the very least, keep it in the infield, keep the run from scoring. But yeah, it's disappointing. Like every time you kind of get Dre's starting to play a little better defense. But it's just plays like that are too common, I think.
Right, and he's played. And Michael Barkin brought it up on post game on Wednesday night here, that his offense is we kind of like, okay, if he's producing at the plate, his defense is whatever. And he's played great defensively over the last, month, you'd say?
Yeah, he's
around
played
there?
better. Yeah, he's strung together, I thought better defensive effort the last,
But now it's just like that play, man. It's just an easy play, and then a run scores from second base off it, and they put themselves in a 1-0 hole. And I said something to Ricky in the office. I was like, "Do you think this game's really going to end up 1-0?" And then literally a second later, it was 2-0 in the 8th inning, and that will lead right to this next conversation with Matt Strahm. That is now 3 earned runs he's allowed in his last 4 outings.
Yeah,
and I think we've talked about Strahm struggling a little bit so far in this pod during the season, but man, it when he goes out there, what happened to the trust level? Every time Matt Strahm went out there, in the last 2 years that he's been a member of the Phillies, it's like, all right, shutdown inning.
Yeah.
And just this year, he doesn't, it hasn't had that same, I haven't had that same confidence in him. And the numbers kind of back that up.
Yeah. ERA now is a 3.90 I'm looking at after giving up that run on Wednesday night. No, he was great like the first couple of years with the Phillies. You mentioned, if you remember, he obviously started his first season with the Phillies as a starter because they needed him to, and he did a nice job with that, then transitioned to the bullpen. And then last year in 24, he's an all-star. He's been everything and more they could have asked for. But you're right. This year, it's definitely a notch down to what we've seen the last couple of years. And it's a shame because they obviously are looking and needing left-handed arms out of that bullpen without Alvarado and, Tanner Banks. They've been leaning on a lot. not to jump the gun here, but Dave Dombrowski, I thought, had a pretty interesting conversation with Jason Stark of The Athletic, where he was asked about the bullpen and basically alluded to, obviously we're looking to fortify the bullpen, and kind of referenced the time he was in Boston and they won the World Series in 2018, that then they did it and they could do it again this year, is use starting pitchers in the postseason.
Yep.
So if you're looking for a left-handed arm out of the bullpen in the postseason, it could be Jesus Luzardo. Ranger makes sense, but he's pitching so well now. I think he's your game 2 starter.
100%.
So I don't know if it's going to be Ranger, but you could go that way. You could go to Sanchez. You can go to guys like that come October, but you got to get to October first, and you need Matt Strahm for that.
Yep.
Especially without Jose Alvarado. But you're right. He's not been the same guy. Could just be, a lot has been asked of him, and he's wearing down a little bit. Obviously, he had the slow start to the season, as you remember, coming out of spring training. He wasn't quite ready with the shoulder, I believe, the shoulder. Yeah. But yeah, it's discouraging, obviously, to see him give up another home run tonight, Wednesday night against Caratini. But yeah, man, Strahm's got to pick it up, and he's pushing that 4 ERA right now, which is pretty uncommon for him over these last handful of years.
Very uncommon, and it just, like, I sat back and thought about it. It just stinks. You mentioned Christopher Sanchez. He's on the mound on Thursday, and you and I, again, we've had this conversation where I have so much faith in this starting lineup or the starting rotation. And then again, it's Ranger Suarez proves it. Zach Wheeler proves it. I'm sure Christopher Sanchez is going to prove it tomorrow. And it's, if you're this offense, you have to feel a little bad, right? Like,
oh yeah.
You have the best starting rotation in baseball.
Yeah.
And you're going out and laying goose eggs in back-to-back games for the first time since 2022.
Yeah. Yeah. Rob Thompson said that when he went to take Ranger out of the game, on Tuesday night after Ranger left, like Trea Turner on the mound talking to Rob Thompson, he just kind of said, what a shame, we got to score some runs. This is brutal. We just wasted this guy's performance. And then they did it again to Zach Wheeler on Wednesday night. So it's tough. It's tough to watch for sure.
Yeah. And hopefully they can turn around. Sanchez on the mound on Thursday, as we said. I mean, the outing that he had in Miami, fantastic, and expecting even more from Sanchi on Thursday. But you mentioned the Dave Dombrowski article written by Jason Stark. Really intriguing article. He mentions Bryce, kind of approached him and said, hey, we got to get a bat. And, I don't know if that's going to be true or not, but I'm looking at that ESPN article written by Jeff Passan and who else? It was 2 other people, Kylie McDaniel. And that, they list 50 candidates that could be on the move, as the trade deadline is about a month and 6 days away here as we sit down on June 25th. There's names on here that are intriguing. There's names that are not. But when you look at bats, there's not a lot of links to the Phillies besides like Jaron Duran. I don't think you want to get Eugenio Suarez. He just won't fit here. Obviously with Alec Boehm, you'd have to move on from Boehm. But I don't know, man. What do you want as we sit down here? 37 days away from the trade deadline?
Yeah, I guess so. Right, August 1st, that kind of adds up. Or beginning of August, it's the 1st or the 2nd. Anyhow, I mean, I think the bullpen still is the number one thing
for sure
that they need to address. But yeah, they definitely, I mean, you've seen these last couple of nights, they need a bat and a difference-making bat. Now, whether that, obviously those guys aren't that common on the trade market generally, but yeah, you mentioned a couple names. I saw a couple of names that, if the Rangers keep kind of going downhill, Aroldis Garcia.
Dude. Can you imagine that?
That would be something. But no, yeah, they definitely need some pop in that lineup. We just talked about it a few minutes ago. Somebody that can step up and hit a couple home runs for them in a big spot. Because right now it just makes it so much easier when you have a guy that can give you a 3-run home run. Yeah. And right now, other than Schwarber, it's like, they're really having to string together hits and scratch and claw for whatever type of offense they can muster. So yeah, I think a bat's great, and I think that the Harper mentioned in that article was like, he said he would move back to the outfield depending on who you get.
Yep.
They don't want to do that, obviously. I think they want to try to. They think keeping him at first base kind of keeps him healthy, maybe prolongs his career a little bit as he's sitting on the IL now. Anyhow, but yeah, I don't know. They're gonna. I'd be shocked if they don't make some sort of move to address the offense, whether. Hopefully that's not another Austin Hayes type move, and it can be actually a difference maker. But
Rodolfo Castro.
Yeah, the last few deadlines, both in terms of the pitching help and the offense, has been pretty minimal. So, but no, I think they're going to go get some arms and a bat, and we'll see. But
now, is it worth? Because Dave mentioned that in the article. Sorry to cut you off there, but Dave mentioned that it might require getting rid of some of these guys that you might not want to get rid of.
Right. Yeah.
Like Aiden Miller, Justin Crawford. Possibly Mick Abel.
Yeah.
There's Eduardo Tate. There's a lot of guys that are on there. Would you? I know it's been a talking point since February, but this is the window.
Yeah,
right?
That's what Dave Dombrowski alluded to. Like when you got a team that you really think can win it all, you have to do everything you can to give them the best chance to win it all. Which we just kind of mentioned. I feel like the last 2 deadlines he really hasn't. And this offseason too, I don't know that he did a whole. I mean, Luzardo was a good move, but Kepler, like this offseason, right. I feel like there was an opportunity maybe to. But it was what it was. But
Kepler, and Romano.
Yeah. So, but yeah, no, you got. And to your initial question, do you have to get? Yeah, I don't think they want to get rid of Painter, but if Aiden Miller or Justin Crawford and Mick Abel to me, I think is a fine pitcher, but I don't think he's the guy we saw for the first couple of starts. Yep. You've seen him kind of struggle a little bit. So yeah, if it comes down to you have to send Mick Abel somewhere to get a quality arm and a bat as part of some package, then yes, I would do that for sure. I think Crawford and Miller, I wouldn't call them untouchable. Yeah, if that's what it takes, and it's a lot of teams. It's going to be a seller's market. I think there's a lot of teams looking for the same thing. So you're going to have to put together a pretty enticing package. I know the Mets are looking for bullpen help. There's a lot of contenders that need to shore up their bullpen and looking for bats. So yeah, no, I don't think you can expect to get a difference maker and not give up something of value, obviously.
Right. It would be crazy if they can somehow pull off like a Rafael Devers trade like the Giants did, where a sleeper guy who top 15 bat in the league right now. And all of a sudden
Devers
just,
15,
and all of a sudden it's like, oh, wow. You went and traded all these guys for, I'm that fine.
Right.
This is the window.
Yeah.
This is the window to win. Everyone's getting older. It's been the talking point all season. Do it.
Yeah.
If you're going to do it, especially when you have 2 no-shows like this down in Houston. But is there anything else that you want to hit on, buddy? It stinks that we sit down here and it's.
No, we talked about the offense. All the key points from Houston. We've hit the Trea Turner play, obviously, on Wednesday. Looking forward to seeing what Sanchez does against Hunter Brown. Hunter Brown's been unbelievably good. So that's going to be tough, man. You don't want to get swept out of there. Then you go to the Braves. The Braves have been playing a little bit better. So tough road trip, tough portion of the schedule, I guess is worth mentioning 100%. Too. I know San Diego's coming in. Then you hit the road before the All-Star break with
out west.
San Diego and San Francisco. Yep. So you want to keep this thing from kind of getting, I don't want to say spiraling, but you want to try to keep the level where you're at, right around first place with 2.5 weeks left before the break here. But it's not going to be easy, man. Like, especially the way they're playing right now, it's pretty inconsistent, and they're going to need a lot more from their offense than they got these past 2 nights in Houston.
And I expected this if they went for Miami, where we talked about those 4 640 starts, and then you kind of move on to New York. But if they came from Miami in those 4 games, kind of a lonely, lifeless ballpark down there, and then you go to Houston, you play like this, I'd get it.
Right.
But like, you went home, you took 2 or 3 from your division rival, you took the National League East division lead.
Yeah. And
then you come out here and do what you're doing down in Houston. It's just the plate discipline hasn't been there. I know that was a big talking point in post game tonight. Just a lot of Nick Castellanos comes out and swings at the first pitch and tries to crush the ball in the 9th inning. It's like, dude, you're down 2 runs.
Yeah, right.
One swing of the bat is not going to, unfortunately, put 2 runs on the board. So and Mundo Sosa is now the only player with an extra base hit in the series so far, and he had 1 on Tuesday night. So a lot of things.
4 series in a row before this. If you go back to that Cubs series, right? Cubs, Blue Jays, Marlins, Mets.
Yeah, when they're 17-7-1 in series this year. Yeah. And now they're 17-8-1.
Right. They've already lost this one. Yeah.
Yeah. And 5-1-2-3 innings tonight on Wednesday.
Yeah. Oh yeah. There wasn't a lot of. There was a couple innings that were not very competitive. Against a pitcher was okay. He pitched well tonight, but he's not the guy you're facing tomorrow or Hunter Brown on Thursday. Yeah. So
he allowed. What was his name? God, I'm completely. It's been another long week. Colton Gordon. Yeah.
Colton Gordon was the starter. Yep.
He allowed 6 home runs in his last 3 outings.
Yeah.
It was like, okay, this guy's going to come in throwing cheese balls, and they just couldn't get anything going. Bryson Stott did hit the ball hard. He, again, it's about the only it's one of those where I guess it's like a little solace where it's like, okay, maybe he hit a 395. It would have been out in 10 different parks.
Yeah.
Bryson Stott's hit there in the 7th inning, but what are you going to do?
Yeah. No, it's frustrating. And at the start, it can't be beneficial for a starting pitcher to know, like, if I give up a run, that could be it. Literally, that could be it. Like, it's tough to pitch that way. I'm sure Chris Sanchez is now going to try to be perfect tomorrow, and maybe he will be, but it's just a tough way to try to win games when your offense is giving you nothing,
Yeah.
0. So hopefully they can figure out a way tomorrow against a guy with a sub-2 ERA. And I think he has Hunter Brown, not to keep getting back to Hunter Brown, but 109 strikeouts and 28 walks. So his numbers are just pretty filthy, man. Like best ERA in baseball for a team that is really sputtering. It just, but that's baseball.
That's baseball, baby. That's ball.
Put 6 runs on Hunter Brown tomorrow.
It wouldn't surprise me if that happens. Him and his 1.88 ERA.
Right. Yeah. So maybe they'll get going tomorrow. But
That'd be nice. That'd be nice, especially as you go to Atlanta, who, they've kind of dominated the Mets the last 3 series, but then the Mets get a game back now as they won on Wednesday night here. But so Phillies hold a half-game lead heading into Thursday over the Mets in the National League East. Real quick, we have to, I feel like it's typical on our pod. Old Man Dixon still on the board?
Eric Dixon, yeah. I don't think he went in the first round.
Yep.
I've been tracking it. Then we went down for the post-game show. So second round, maybe.
Yep.
Second round, if any NBA teams out there looking for a winner, all-time leading scorer at a proud program, went to a Final Four and so on. I don't have to read his resume to you. But
Final Four.
Yeah. A Final Four in the NCAA tournament in 22. And you're right. The Crown Final Four in 25. So a couple of Final Fours. But the Sixers pick, VJ Edgecombe, you like it?
I don't.
No,
I don't. I don't like it, but yeah, I don't know.
Yeah,
doesn't really move the needle for me as much. But who knows?
Yeah.
Who knows? But
who knows? Draft night, exciting stuff.
Yeah, check out all our Sixers content. A lot of the newsroom was packed tonight. A lot of good things. Jason Kelsey's event happened today on Wednesday. That was chaos. Shout out to everybody on the digital team for helping out with that. But yeah, man, just a busy day at the office, and the Phils have a clunker. And hopefully we've said it a bunch here on this pod that hopefully Thursday they can turn around here and move on and keep increasing that National League East division lead. So
yeah, it's going to be tight all year, that NL East, Spence. Anybody's running away from, at least 2 of those teams. I think that's coming down to September.
Yep. It would not surprise me if that happens. And as you mentioned, the schedule gets a little challenging here for the break, and hopefully the Phillies can kind of just keep gaining some ground on that Mets team who's scuffling, but all skids come to an end, and maybe tonight on Wednesday they get a win. Maybe that changes things for the Mets. So Phillies offense needs to get going. We also need to get going. It is a late one. So that's Sean Kane. I'm Spencer Kircher. We'll talk to you guys hopefully after the Atlanta series.